Hello, good morning, everyone. Hi, good morning, Wano. Hi,
Morning, Ivy. Hello.
morning. Yeah, thank you for everyone to join our webinar. So today our topic is about immigration to Singapore. I think most of our friends here, they all know that Singapore is very attractive to our foreigner. And according to some report, and Singapore is the top ranking in the first place for the expat who like to living here and working here. So today we are invited Ronald here to share with us about some immigration tips. And let me introduce Ronald first. So Ronald is graduated in the University of Tasmania with an LLB in 2015 and was called back to the Singapore bar in July 2018. Yeah, he joined Simontech and Partners in late 2018 and has since been assisting in the managing partner of the firm in advising client on immigration matter. So today I think Ronald have prepared a lot of things to share with us. So I hand over the time to you, Ronald.
Thank you, Ivy. Thank you for setting this up once again.
Yeah, so I may call for a question here now. Again, if you have a question, you can use our chat box here during the Q&A. So after the session, and a lawyer, Ronald or me, we will answering your question. So okay, show time, Ronald.
Okay, thank you, Ivy. Thank you once again. So good morning, everybody. Thank you for attending today's webinar on a Saturday morning. So I'll be presenting to all of you on Singapore immigration with a focus on the latest updates on the Global Investor Program, right? Okay, next, so this is just our standard legal advice, right? Standard legal caution, right? That presentation slides that you're going to be seeing today, going to be seeing later on, do not constitute any legal advice of any sort. So pretty standard. Okay, next. So just a brief introduction of myself. This is my profile. I've been a lawyer for more than 2 years now. So in this entire 2 years, like what Ivy has already shared, I've been practicing in the immigration department as well as the family office department. So basically, I've been handling a lot of global investor program applications, family office applications from high net worth clients from North Asia, primarily from North Asia. As we are talking about your mainland clients, you're talking about your Hong Kong, Taiwan clients, and sometimes also Indonesian clients. Okay, so next, just a brief introduction of this tech law network. So our law firm, Simontech and Partners, SMTP in short, is a member law firm of this tech law network. So tech law network is actually a worldwide alliance of independent law firms. So we have a global presence in more than 90 over countries, and we have more than 160 over member law firms in this tech law network itself. And good news is that for this year, Chambers Global has ranked tech law as the top elite law firm network of 2020. So for any cross-border issues, because we've been dealing with a lot of foreign clients, right? So sometimes they need cross-border advice, cross-border legal issues, and all that. We'll be able to leverage on tech law to solve, to present a solution to all high net worth clients. Okay, so next, before I go into detail for the Global Investor Program, just want to give every one of you here a brief introduction of our law firm. So what is actually Simontech and Partners, or SMTP, right? So SMTP was established in 1994, so quite a number of years ago, right? And we practice, and the founder of our firm is Mr. Simontech himself, the managing partner. So I've been working very closely with our managing partner, Mr. Simontech. And our law firm differs from a lot of the other, typical law firms out there, or the big law firms, right, where they practice in a lot of areas, right? For us, we are exclusively a private client practice. So private client practice means that we practice only in 4 core areas of the law. So first, immigration department, or the area of immigration. That is where I practice primarily in. So when we talk about immigration, we talk about the very, very popular program in recent years, right? We are talking about the Global Investor Program, the GIP. So why is it popular? It's because successful applicant will be able to get fast-track permanent residency in Singapore. So you totally skip the typical route, right? Where you have to come to Singapore to work, get your employment pass before you can then apply for permanent residency. And then the next step will then, of course, be your Singapore citizenship. So with the GIP, you skip EP, directly you get PR in Singapore. And the good thing here about our law firm is that a major advantage we have is we are a recognized law firm in the EDB panel. So what that means is, we have been working very closely with the EDB itself, because this GIP program is actually administered by the EDB, right? EDB is actually the Economic Development Board of Singapore. So basically, as and when clients, they come to us, they want to apply for GIP, they have any doubts, they have any queries, or in some cases, they don't directly fit into the GIP requirement, but they do have a very good background or profile that EDB would maybe like, then we can always contact EDB because they are just a phone call away. We work closely with all the EDB officers. So then next, let's say for typical client, right? Typical high net worth client, Mr. Lee, successfully applied for GIP, obtained PR in Singapore, right? Once you have obtained PR, it's always for initial term of 5 years. So after 5 years, you need to renew, right? So that's where we come in. We can help our clients to renew as well, both under the GIP program or be it the usual route, right? Where you've gotten your PR through the EP and then you need to renew, we can also do that as well. And then next, once you're already the PR, so let's say for typical, let's say back to Mr. Lee, right? Got his GIP, applied for his GIP, got his PR in Singapore, renewed maybe once or twice for 10 years already, right? Wants to apply for Singapore citizenship, we can do that as well. We can plan and we can, of course, do all the necessary filing and application for him. So that's one, our major department, the immigration department. So second core practice area is our real estate and conveyancing. So basically, as you can see, we handle everything from start to end, right? Let's say a typical high net worth client from China, Taiwan, or Hong Kong got his PR in Singapore, eventually got his citizenship. Along the way, he would have gotten properties in Singapore, right? Residential properties or commercial properties. So a very natural progression, right, in your lifetime. So we handle the real estate and conveyancing side for them as well. So then next, living in Singapore for 10 years or more, you have your real estate in Singapore, you have your bank accounts in Singapore, you have your investments, or maybe you have your headquarters, right? Your business headquarters in Singapore already. So then naturally, what would you be thinking about? How to preserve your wealth, right? Your family legacy planning. So we are talking about helping our clients, set up a will or draft a will, set up their lasting power of attorney in case that one day they lose their mental capacity, in a coma, so on and so forth. Advanced medical directive, or in some cases, some clients want to think about setting up a trust. We can do that as well. So then the fourth major department, which is also in the recent years, a very, very popular scheme, is the MAS administered 13X or 13R program. So where you set up a single family office in Singapore, some of you may be familiar, right? Because this is the buzzword among the high net worth community, of course, in China, Taiwan, and Hong Kong, right? So we can help them set up as well. Once you successfully apply for 13X or 13R, you'll be able to get your employment pass in Singapore, progress to PR, and then to citizenship eventually. Okay, next. So next, so here, let's say for example, we go back to Mr. Lee again, right? Our high net worth client from mainland China, Taiwan, or Hong Kong, wherever he might be from. So let's say he says, "Hey, Ronald, I'm interested to know about the GIP program you've spoken so much about. I've heard about GIP program, right? Very popular. Come to Singapore, you can get fast track PR, right? So can you tell me some critical requirements of the GIP?" And of course, I will go with Mr. Lee, right? Point by point. So first, Mr. Lee, you got to take note of the investment amount, 2.5 million Sing dollars. Second, investment period. How long? Because typically when you're telling a client about investment amount, you need to put $2.5 million into some investment vehicle or scheme, right? You want to know how long will my investment amount be locked, right? So this is for a tenure of 5 years, for a term of 5 years. So for this entire 5 years, if you successfully apply under the GIP, you will not be able to remove that 2.5 million Sing dollars, at least 2.5 million Sing dollars. So then 3, also another very typically asked question. So what's the application time? Yeah, I'm interested, Ronald, but what's the application timeline, right? Some of them, they want to come quickly, or some of them, they have some, long-term plans, so they want to plan ahead, right? So application time, from start of the application, from point of submission, all the way until in principle approval is around 9 months. So after 9 months, EDB, ICA, they'll come back to you and say, okay, I think we can approve preliminary. So now we want you to get your investments in place, right? So basically, for the investment options that you've chosen, I'll share more later. You have to get all of this in place. So basically, looking at around 9 months to 13 months time. And then let's say Mr. Lee says that, okay, I can fulfill 1, 2, 3. So what do I need to know still? Then I'll say, Mr. Lee, you still need to take note of number 4, your qualifying criteria. Because 2.5 million Sing dollars may sound very little, right? Chump change to a lot of high net worth individuals. Anytime they can just buy 1 or 2 properties more than that amount, right? So then qualifying criteria is where it gets a little bit tricky, but don't worry, let me just go through all of this with all of you here. So here, I will show Mr. Lee. This is basically a summary of the qualifying criteria. So what are the qualifying criteria under the GIP? There are basically 4 categories that Mr. Lee would need to fit into one of the 4. So first, we are talking about your established business owner. I will elaborate more on the individual categories later, okay? So basically now I'll just go through what they are. So second, next generation business owner. Third, Mr. Lee, are you a founder of a fast growth company? If not, Mr. Lee, are you a family office principal? So family office principal, just to let all of you know, basically recently a very popular scheme or concept. Okay, next. So here, before I go into the details for the individual categories, right? Just want to share with everyone of you here, why is item number 2, a category 2 or category 3 highlighted? Because before March of this year, and this is where I come in the updates, right? So before March of this year, there were only actually category 1 and 4. So basically, before March of this year, you can only apply under established business owner or a family office principal. So now with the latest updates, you can consider your next generation business owners, they can consider applying. Your founder of your fast growth companies, they can consider applying. So I will go through in detail, right? So first, let's say Mr. Lee said, okay, I see all the 4 categories. So can you go into detail for the individual categories to see whether I fit into any one of them? So let's say established business owner, I'll tell Mr. Lee, this is actually for the majority of our clients, they still fit under this category, right? Because most of the high net worth clients out there, they are seasoned businessmen, established business owners, probably in their 40s, probably in their 50s, right? Have a successful business already, have been entrepreneur for more than 10 years now. So then I'll tell Mr. Lee. So I'll ask Mr. Lee, right? So do you fulfill the following criteria, right? First, do you have at least 3 years of successful entrepreneur business track record? Basically, very simply, right? Most of the seasoned businessmen out there, they would have easily fulfilled this requirement. So no problem for most, right? But second, this is where it gets a little bit tricky, right? Company's turnover. So basically, Mr. Lee's company, which he's relying on for the GIP, must be at least 200 million Sing dollars in company turnover in the most recent year as well as for the last 3 years. So why is this highlighted in bold as well? Because other than the fact that it is a big amount, 200 million Sing dollars. Prior to this year of 2020, there was a big change, right? Before that, it was only 50 million Sing dollars. But after March of 2020 of this year, suddenly, the EDB decided to increase this by 4-fold, right? 50 million Sing dollars times 4, you get 200 million Sing dollars. So why? The reason is because, as I've mentioned earlier, GIP scheme has been very, very popular for several years now. A lot of high net worth clients from around the region, right? North Asia, your Hong Kong clients, your Taiwan clients, your China clients, Indonesian clients, they all got wind of this GIP program. Oh, I can come to Singapore, get fast track PR. So gaining a lot of traction, right? And increasing popularity. So EDB has been seeing a lot of influx of applications. So they decided to increase it 4-fold. So then third, company must be engaged in one or more of the industries in Annex A. So what is Annex A? I will share later on. So then fourth one, at least 30% shareholding if your company is privately owned. If you are a listed company, then you must be one of the largest shareholders in the company. Usually we say top 3, okay? So that is typically the category for established business owner. So what if Mr. Lee says that, okay, I'm not an established business owner. Any more categories? Second, we have more. So eligibility under the next generation business owner. So what is the next generation business owner? So basically in Chinese, we call it the Fu Er type, right? Or in Cantonese, Fu Yi Toi, right? So next generation business owner. So let's say Senior Lee is an established business owner. So who is your next generation business owner? So your Junior Lee. So probably the son or daughter of Mr. Lee himself, right? So here, because this is a newly introduced requirement, there are newly introduced category, there are also other requirements here. So 30% shareholding, it must be owned by your immediate family members, right? So we're talking about, let's say if you're Junior Lee, your father or your family must own at least 30% shareholding in the company itself, if it's privately owned. So if it's listed company, same thing, must be one of the largest individual shareholders in the company. So then second, company's turnover must be at least 500 million Sing dollars. So you can see the distinction here, right? Prior to this established business owner, only 200 million Sing dollars. So now EDB is saying, okay, we can allow the likes of your Junior Lee, the likes of your Fu Er Tai, right, to come in under this GIP program, but we have some conditions, right? Some heightened conditions. So here you're looking at least a minimum of company's turnover of at least 500 million Sing dollars for the last 3 years. And then third, because what they want in the next generation business owner is that they want to attract people who are slated to take over their family's business, right? So Junior Lee slated to take over Senior Lee's company, take over as CEO or chairman in the next 10 to 20 years. So they want to attract this kind of people to come in. So that's why condition 3, you must be part of the management team in the company, right? C-suite, your CEO or your board of directors, right? One of them. Again, Annex A, which I'll be sharing later on. So, okay, any questions for these categories later, we'll take them, okay, at the end of our presentation. So then, next thing, let's say Mr. Lee says that I'm neither established business owner or am I a second generation business owner. So third, I will ask Mr. Lee, so are you a founder of a fast growth company? So what is founder of fast growth company? What's the concept here? So basically, we're talking about your early days, right? Founders of your Alibaba, founders of your Tencent, founders of your Uber. In recent years, maybe probably founders of your Bilibili, so on and so forth, right? So then here I'll ask Mr. Lee, are you a founder of a fast growth company? So he will ask, what requirements are there? So first, obviously you must be a founder and you must be one of the largest shareholders of the company with a valuation of at least 500 million Sing dollars. So as you can see, EDB doesn't just want any founder of any fast growth company, right? They want only the cream of the crop. So your company must be valuated at 500 million Sing dollars at least. And then second, your company must be invested by a reputable venture capital, private equity firm, right? Your VCP firms. So basically, we are talking about very popular names, right? Your Blackstone, talking about your Bain Capital, so on and so forth. So then if Mr. Lee says, no problem, I can fulfill 1 and 2, then we still have Annex A to think about. So I'll talk about Annex A later. So then, let's say Mr. Lee says that 1, 2, 3, I don't fulfill. Any last category? Then I'll say yes. Are you a family office principal, Mr. Lee? So what does the family office principal entails, right? So family office principal, usually when we pitch to our clients, we will tell them it is neither easy, neither difficult, right? Neither easy nor difficult. So why is that so, right? So just let me explain. Why is it difficult first? So first, you must have at least 5 years of entrepreneurial investment or management track record. So it's in contrast to the other 3 categories where they only need you to have 3 years of experience. Here, as a family office principal, you need to have 5. But basically, most of the high net worth clients out there, they typically have more than 5, so not that difficult. So then second, why is it difficult? You must have net investable assets of at least 200 million Sing dollars. So basically, for clients who can fulfill family office principal, they can come under this category. They are already ultra high net worth, right? Readily 200 million Sing dollars in investable assets, to be injected here for GIP purposes. So that's why we say that it is difficult. But why is it not difficult, right? Why is it easy in a sense? It's easy because some of you here, observant, right? Eagle eye people here, right, may have already observed no Annex A requirements. So we are talking about, you don't need to have the Annex A. There's no 30% shareholding, so on and so forth. Here, of course, you have to meet the stringent requirements of 200 million Sing dollars. So let's say here, if you are able to, fulfill one of the 4 categories, right? Then let's say you're coming under category 1, 2, or 3, then you need to think about Annex A, right? So then typically Mr. Lee will say, okay, you talk about so much of the categories only already, right? So can you tell me more about Annex A? You've been talking about Annex A so much, right? So Annex here, as everybody can see, right? There's about, if I'm not wrong, about 20 industries here. But of course, there's so many, industries out there. There's so many growing businesses. There's new business models, sprouting up in the recent years, right? We've been growing at a very fast pace, especially when we come to the fintech sector, or we come to the IT sector, right? So here, let's say Mr. Lee, I flash this in front of Mr. Lee. Mr. Lee says that, yeah, a lot of industries here, but I'm from the venture capital industry. I don't seem to see it in the Annex A itself. So for all of you out there, if you're looking at Annex A right now, you don't see venture capital, right? There's no VC category or VC industry here. So just to share on how our firm can help typical client who does not fit squarely into the Annex A industry, just want to quote an example, right? Last year we actually handled a real life case, right? Person was was a venture capitalist, founder of a very prominent venture capital firm in mainland China. So here, let's say take for example Mr. Lee, right? He himself is the founder. Quite prominent in the VC arena in China itself, right? But can't fit into Annex A. So what we did actually, what we can do for Mr. Lee is that because we are on the EDB panel, like what I mentioned earlier, right? EDB officers are always just one call or an email away. We can always speak to them as and when our client needs to. So in this case, let's say Mr. Lee is from the VC industry, we can always set up a call, set up what we call a preliminary assessment together, where us as a law firm and our client and EDB, we have a three-way teleconference call. We discuss the client's situation. We discuss, we let the EDB officer know, our client, very high profile, very prominent in China. He fits all the criteria except that he is not in the Annex A industry. So typically we have a conversation, and if the EDB officer is satisfied, right? Yeah, despite not being in the Annex A industry, this is a profile of a person in which we would welcome into Singapore to grow for example, our VC environment, right? Our VC arena in Singapore. We want someone coming here, hire people, train our local Singaporeans so that we can also have a very successful VC industry in Singapore. So those are examples in which how we can help our clients, right? So coming back to the example, we got in touch with EDB. At the end of the day, we sent information across. We spoke to EDB. We sent our client's profile across. EDB was actually very, very interested in this client itself, right? This VC fund founder. End of the day, EDB actually invited us, to let our client know, hey, please invite your client to apply for the GIP program. We welcome him into Singapore. So very happy to let every one of you here know, to update every one of you here. This client now is already a PR in Singapore. So that is an example of how we can help our clients. So then next, let's say Mr. Lee says, right, qualifying criteria I can fit in. Annex A I also can fit in, no problem. So what's next? So after fitting all of this in, you have to consider your investment options, right? There are three investment options. So we are talking about your investment option A, option B, option C. So what is option A? Option A, basically you invest your 2.5 million Sing dollars in a new business entity. You set up a company in Singapore, which our firm can help as well, or you expand an existing business operation, right? Depends on the client. So some clients, they say, I would like to, I find it, I don't have a business presence in Singapore. So let's just set up a new company. Or some clients say, I already have a foothold in Singapore, I have a presence in Singapore, so can I use an existing company? Also can. So then next, of course, we have to submit a detailed 5-year business plan, right? We have to let EDB know, in the next 5 years, how many people we are employing, how many business expenses there are. Because at the end of the day, this is still an investment immigration program. We need to talk about economics, right? So then next, 30% shareholding, part of management team, right? And then Annex A. So if let's say option B is out of the question, then what is option B, right? Option A is out of the question, what is option B? So option B is you must invest 2.5 million Sing dollars in a GIP approved fund. So basically this GIP approved fund is a VC fund, venture capital fund approved by the EDB. So just to let every one of you here know, VC fund, the nature of VC fund is such that you may make money or you may lose money, right? Okay, so next, let's say option A, option B don't fit in as well, right? So option C. Option C, another very, very popular program. So whenever we talk about family office, the client's eyes always bright up, right? I've been hearing a lot of family office from my, my kakis, my friends, in China, Taiwan, Hong Kong, right? Very popular buzzword. So here, option C, invest 2.5 million Sing dollars in a new or existing Singapore-based single family office. So why have we highlighted single family office? Because single family office is this. Just a brief introduction of the concept, right? When you talk about family office, there's single family office, there's multi-family office. So what is multi-family office? Multi-family office means that fund manager manages funds for multiple families, right? For outsiders, not just one family. So here, if you are multi-family office, the fund manager needs to be licensed. So basically, you need to apply to MAS or CMS license or fund management license. So in contrast, because here we are talking about a GIP program, investment immigration program, where you are applying under immigration track, right? So basically it involves yourself or your family. So here we are talking about single family office, where you yourself set up single family office in Singapore to manage your own funds. That's the difference between single family office and multi-family office in a nutshell. But of course here you must have AUM of at least 200 million Sing dollars. So here we have started this, right? So actually another new update. So before this year, entire 200 million Sing dollars, must be transferred into Singapore and managed by the family office in Singapore. But after March of this year, there's been a change because EDB realizes that probably very inconvenient, right? If you want entire 200 million Sing dollars come to Singapore, client overseas, we have to do a lot of restructuring and all that just to get the assets into Singapore, right? So here with the new update, EDB understands this. So now you only need 50 million Sing dollars out of that 200 million Sing dollars to be transferred into Singapore and to be managed in Singapore. So then, obviously this is a family office option. You also need to submit a detailed 5-year business plan or investment plan, right? So let's say for a single family office, your employment headcount, how much you are spending, so on and so forth. Okay, so next we have come to the conclusion of today's presentation. So let's say typically, right, our Mr. Lee able to fulfill qualifying criteria, no problem, chosen his investment option A, B, or C, right? And then investment timeline, we help our clients, we submit probably 9 to 13 months later, this typical client will then get his PR status in Singapore. So here in conclusion, main applicant, what can you get if you successfully apply for GIP? You can get Singapore permanent resident status. So what this means is that once you get your Singapore PR for 5 years, right? 3rd year, you can apply for Singapore citizenship already. So this is where we can come in, simultaneous partners, we can help our client plan, right? And indeed, this is actually the very common plan, very usual plan for all of our high net worth clients, right? They were always asking, hey, Ronald, I want to come in, want to apply for, GIP, want to get PR, because I have long-term plans to apply for citizenship in Singapore. In Chinese, they always say, 朱律师，我想到新加坡就是拿一个永久居民身份，后来我有那个入籍的想法，我也是想申请公民，可以吗？ So these are the ways in which we can help our clients, right? You get PR in Singapore, you get citizenship. So GIP is actually a very, very, very good, very popular platform or vehicle to do that. And then second, so Mr. Lee, maybe you ask, for myself, no problem, right? I can get PR. So how about my, my wife, my spouse, or my children under the age of 21? So then here we'll let Mr. Lee know. Good news for you. If you are talking about your spouse, be your husband, your wife, or your children under the age of 21, they can also get Singapore PR resident status under the GIP, tacked on to you as the main applicant. Here, I'd like to just let every one of you here know, basically word of caution, right? For your sons and all that, because some clients, they are not comfortable with having their sons, serve NS, right? Because they always have that thinking, right? Hey, NS, serving the army, very dangerous. Of course, there are risks, right? I mean, accidents can happen, but Singapore is a very safe place. Our training regime and all that has already been improved, to a very high standard. So basically now, when you're in the army itself, a lot of restrictions here and there. No longer in the olden days where you have to do the maximum, right? And can result in accidents and all that. Singapore already at a very minimum. So here, just want to let every one of you here know, if your son is below the age of 21, coming under the GIP program with you as a PR, when he comes to the age of 18, he'll be called up to the Singapore Army to serve national service. So then third, parents and unmarried children above 21 years old can apply for a long-term visit pass, right? LTVP, tagged to the validity of your REP. So basically, for your parents and your adult children who's unmarried, they can apply for LTVP because of your status as a PR in Singapore. So then fourth, always the very shining point, right? Always what our clients always desire, right? For the GIP program. Fast track program to obtain Singapore permanent resident status in Singapore. And then end of the day, we call it the end game, right? Or to our Chinese clients, we always let them know, 最后一步棋要到岸就是申请新加坡公民，对吗？ So you can apply for Singapore citizenship in the future as well. Okay. So next, anyone has anyone is interested, any more questions or would like to set up a consultation, you can, scan our QR code or get in contact with one of our people here. Okay, I'll hand over to Ivy for the Q&A right now.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Ronald. Actually, for myself, actually, I'm also a PR. So I'm using the other platform to convert. I got EP first and then convert to PR. So do you know that is there any general time frame for people who getting EP to convert to PR or from PR to convert to citizens? How is the time frame? Normally, how long can take the EP or that's a PR or citizenship? Yeah.
Okay. Also a very common question. So for clients who come in, typically they get an EP, no matter under the usual route, right? You're being employed in Singapore or you set up single family office. EP usually given for a term of 2 years or 3 years, right? So after that 2 years or 3 years, some clients, they may think, hey, I want to quickly apply for a permanent resident, right? So after they get their EP, they already have their plan in place. So probably around the 2 year or 3 year mark, they already start applying for their PR. So let me just tell every one of you here, in our experience, most of the time, I would say most of the time, first time usually will fail, right? First time usually will get rejected, right? Rejected already, then you try the second time, third time. So for some clients, if they are working in Singapore, they have no problems, right? First time reject, never mind. Because anyway, I'm working in Singapore, I'm staying in Singapore. So first time reject, never mind. I apply second time, third time. So maybe best case scenario, we say, first time maybe rejected, second time lucky you get accepted. So basically that's at least maybe 3 to 4 years time already, right? So 3 to 4 years time, after you've gotten your PR already, you want to plan for your citizenship, right? Citizenship, because once you get your PR, it's always for a term of 5 years. So you can apply in your third year. You must have stayed in Singapore for 2 years and worked in Singapore for 2 years. So third year, you can apply for your Singapore citizenship. So same thing again, first time usually always rejected. And because of the recent, general elections and all that, immigration policies, they're going to be tightening it up, right? So maybe our friends out there, our audience out there, you want to consider, right? If let's say PR to Singapore citizenship, you must already have a good plan in place, must have a timeline in place. So maybe first time rejected, second time you apply, that's another, that's another in total, maybe 7 to 8 years before you can get your Singapore citizenship in the best case scenario. So what the GIP can do for you is that you get fast track PR and then you shorten that timeline. Yeah.
Okay. Is there any minimum state for who holding PR or using from applying GIP? I think there's no minimum stay, but is there any normal requirement for how long I need to stay for every year?
Okay, also a very common question, right? Because typically we always tell our clients immigration policy in Singapore very unclear, right? You don't have immigration textbooks and all that. Basically, you go on to ICA. Of course, you can see some published criteria there, but there are other unpublished criteria, right? So if we are talking about stay duration, of course, the longer you can stay in Singapore, the better. But ICA always takes a very wholesome approach to assessing an application, right? So other than stay duration, you need to take into account whether you're integrated in Singapore society, whether, let's say, even, you see, typically Chinese clients, take for example, Chinese clients from China, they come to Singapore, they get a PR. They think that, hey, also foreign, I'm a Chinese one. Should be no problem, right? But, from ICA's point of view, they always see that, hey, you're from China, China always has China, Taiwan or Hong Kong, you probably have a different culture compared to our Singaporean Chinese, right? Take for example, Singlish already, right? Our Singlish culture and all that already different already. So social integration is another part in which you need to take care of. So other than, your stay duration, where we always say, for the first 2 years, you need to be in Singapore working and all that before you can apply for your citizenship in the third year. You need to clock up as much time as you can in Singapore before you apply to the ICA to have a higher chance, right? And of course, portray all your other things in which we can also help advise. Yeah.
But most of our customers, they have similar question. I'm not sure that you will visit this. Is it buying property, owning a property? Is it enhance your chance to getting PR or holding your PR or convert to citizenship easier? Holding a property.
Okay. Yeah, also a very common question. So this is what we will let them know. I mean, end of the day, what I always say, right? I say they don't openly publish their criteria, right? But of course, what buying a property in Singapore can help you portray is that, let's say you want to prepare a cover letter to be submitted, because usually when we help our EP clients turn to PR or PR clients, to apply for Singapore citizenship, we will always advise, having a cover letter. So in the cover letter itself, we will always tell ICA, okay, let's say client has already bought residential property in Singapore. What we can always tell the ICA is that, you can tell ICA, hey, I bought a residential property in Singapore. So what does this show? This shows that you have an intention to stay long term in Singapore, right? So that is an advantage of buying a property in Singapore. Let's say if you buy one residential, buy probably a few investment, you can show the ICA, right? See, I have a long-term plan of coming to Singapore to stay, and then of course to have my base in Singapore, like in summary. Yeah. So there's an example of how it can help.
Yeah, understand. So before we start to setting up GIP program or other method to coming over to Singapore, what is the main concern, or do you think what's the main we need to do the step going to the preparation? Or set up the money first, or look for the lawyer is the first things, or any requirement we need to ask ourselves or ask the customer, or what is the first step to prepare to apply for immigration to Singapore?
Okay.
So get your successful rate higher.
Okay. So you're talking about your GIP and all that. So let's say let's say for typical investment scheme, no matter GIP or the 13X13R, right? So basically clients, when they come to us, they already have a preconceived notion, right? They want to come into Singapore, they want to stay, or because of this COVID situation, some of them, they want to treat, having a status in Singapore as part of their contingency plan, right? So as and when they want to come to Singapore, they don't need to apply for tourist visa and so on and so forth. But end of the day, we must always ask client very important question. Be it an investment program or not, you're coming into Singapore getting a residency status. So we must plan ahead, right? Not just, getting the PR in Singapore or getting the EP first. You must, because end of the day, PR is only for 5 years, EP is only for 2 years. So you need to renew, right, at the end of the day. So some clients, they may have the, thinking, hey, I just want to apply, get the 2 years and get the 5 years. Then they think that, oh, that's okay already, I solved my problems. But come end of the day, you need to renew, right? Because when it comes to renewal, you need to consider your residency status. You need to consider whether your investment amount you still can maintain in Singapore or not. So this is a commitment that is not to be taken lightly. So this is what we tell our clients. 2.5 million Sing dollars, you have to park there for 5 years. When renewal comes, you need to show EDB that you have already stayed in Singapore for a number of years, right? You come to renewal, it's either a 3-year renewal or 5-year renewal. So they need to see that you have stayed at least half the time and all that. So these are the things in which we will, tell our clients. And of course, part of long-term planning is, of course, you want to come to Singapore, get a residency. Are you prepared to buy a property in Singapore? Prepared to stay in Singapore, right? So these are the things in which we will, share with our clients. Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Ron. Actually, there are a few different immigration scheme in Singapore. Not only the GIP, and also we have some other setting up a company or other methods. So next week we will doing another webinar and talking about a different other setting up your family office or doing other different way to applying step by step to applying PR or citizenship. So also next Saturday morning, 11 a.m. we will doing our webinar again with Ronald. So but next week we will doing in Mandarin. So if you have a friends who want to know more about the details about immigration to Singapore, please stay tuned in our webinar next week. Okay, so thank you, Ronald.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think if everybody have a question, so we can contact us. Also can contact Ronald. And see you next week.
See you. Thank you, Ivy. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.